Well, the Enterprise is going to rendezvous with another ship. In the meantime, Geordi and Data decided to have some playtime. So back to the holodeck, which probably begins the first inkling of the troubles that Geordi himself will have with the holodeck. You know, he becomes a porn addict in it and everything. Well, this one is a pretty lackluster episode in a lot of ways. It has an interesting concept, even more profound today because of the concerns of AI and whatnot, and this certainly plays into that. But there was always like man versus machine, and certainly 2001: Space Odyssey and all that stuff. The old Star Trek would do this, where who's better, the computer or the human brain and whatnot. And here, trying to humanize Data. And but apparently he's taken a liking of pretending he's Sherlock Holmes. So Geordi has set up this Sherlock Holmes program, and Data sets off to do it. Meanwhile, Dr. Pulaski, well, we've already dealt with her in that she's not convinced Data deserves to be seen as a living thing, and well, just look at him. And so she confronts it with, all you're doing is acting out the story, which he's perfectly memorized and everything. And so Geordi's like, oh, yeah, well, I guess that's a fair point. Hey, I know. Hey, wait a minute. So he goes over to the holodeck computer and tells it to present an entirely different new scenario based on the Sherlock Holmes series of books and all that, and then create a villain that can outsmart Data. So in order to do this is quite a challenge. This ends up creating a sentience, if you will, in the program's version of Professor Moriarty. And so in and of itself, that's not that bad of a concept. It's interesting, and of course it causes trouble. It is a program. Moriarty's a program unto itself, and then begins to invade the computer systems of the ship and take it over and all this stuff, and they've got to confront him. And it eventually becomes a battle of wits between Moriarty and Picard. Data takes a back seat, so the whole Sherlock Holmes thing is over at that point. There's some slip-ups here where, they're trying to figure this out and all that initially, where they call for the Arch to exit the holodeck, and Moriarty already sees it. And he's like, oh, well, what is this? That's before the program is actually initiated, where basically Geordi screws up in how he described it. Empowering the computer far beyond what it should have been. And he's like, oh man, I feel bummed out about it. And well, you should. But at the end, Picard, well, we all make mistakes, Johnny, and so on and all that. But anyway, the problem there is that he's more aware that something's off with the world that he lives in. And he wouldn't be at that point. Even though it's like, oh, the woman he's talking to about it, she sees it too, but just goes, oh, black magic or whatever, runs away, it's scared and all that. But it's like he's already there, even without Geordi having... It would have been better to have the scene after he's done this. It wakes up the character. Plus, it would have done the same thing to others. Now, in specific, the computer program decides to pick Moriarty because that's the ultimate adversary of Sherlock Holmes. So, of course, he's the one that's going to outsmart Data. But a lot of the other characters, you would think, would start to gain sentience as well. But anyway, yeah, it plays out. It's not terrible or anything, but it's kind of lackluster overall. But they're going to have a lot of holodeck adventures. And in this aspect of it, it had some amount of credibility to it, in that you inadvertently caused the computer to create the parameters for this scenario, and it causes other problems because it's the same computer that runs the ship and stuff like that. So, meanwhile, the ship they rendezvous with it looks like the Stargazer. I'm sure it's the same model, but that was supposed to be the Victory, I believe, because Geordi had made a model of the original Victory from the good old days. Anyway, that's the introduction of Moriarty. We'll see him again, and then even much later in Picard Season 3. Yeah, how about that? Yeah. So anyway, a holodeck adventure, yeah. So the follow-up after this one was the outrageous Okona, which... the Sherlock Holmes one was much better than this one. This one, Rocketeer shows up doing a Han Solo character for Star Trek. And he's a womanizing guy. He immediately starts romancing the ladies of the starship, most notably Lois Lane. This is Terry Hatcher in her early days. And some other gal on the ship and all that. And there's these two planets willing to go to war over this man. One, because he believes he got his daughter pregnant. And what did he do? He stole something from the other one. But anyway, it turns out the two planets are at odds with one another. And yet he was just exchanging messages between the son of the leader of one planet and the daughter of the leader of the other because, they're in love, and it's actually the son's child she's carrying and all that. So everything's fine. To drag it down even further, Data now goes back to the holodeck trying to learn how to be funny or to understand comedy, and Joe Piscopo shows up to teach him. It doesn't work. And they end on a silly note with Data telling a joke and Picard getting sick to his stomach. And that's about it. It really wasn't that good of an episode. There's Terry Hatcher. She was nice, and those were amazing. And then you had stupid Wesley all impressed with Okona. He's like, wow, he's a cool guy, and the chicks love him, and stuff like that. Yeah, I suppose. Wait a minute. Does he comes back in a later episode, I think, maybe? I don't know. It seems like, because, you would think, Beverly wouldn't like the influence of this guy. But, he was a roguish playboy with a heart of gold. Yeah. Anyway, he was Rocketeer. That was a cool movie. That was really good. But it was, a one and done thing. But, Star Trek. So these were two pretty lackluster episodes. But between the two, I'd go with the Sherlock Holmes one was the better of the two. They went through all the trouble with the sets and stuff. So, there's that. But Data doesn't really do a very good Sherlock Holmes. No. I don't know. I guess the Moriarty guy was pretty good as Moriarty. But then he really wasn't. He becomes this other guy. It's just, I just want to live, and all this sort of crap. But he was never alive to begin with. But yeah. Anyway, the Sherlock Holmes one was best out of two, but neither were all that great. That's just my take on it. But hey, they had concepts there. At least they tried that. Well, maybe not so much the Okona one. That's just silly. But the computer and life and all that kind of thing. Yeah, that was, they tried. They tried.